Dating to marry versus dating for fun. What if I told you that the way you date says more about your future than the person you're dating? That every unanswered text, every mixed signal, and every moment of confusion is trying to teach you something about your worth. In a world where casual flings are normalized and clarity is rare, how do you protect your heart without building walls? How do you date with purpose without losing your joy? Today, we're diving deep into the truth about dating to marry versus dating for fun. A conversation that will shift your perspective, strengthen your standards, and maybe even save you from another heartbreak. If you're tired of guessing where things are going or settling for less than what your heart truly desires, stay with me till the very end. This might be the message your soul has been waiting for. Clarity of intentions is the invisible filter through which every relationship choice should be made. It defines the energy we bring, the time we give, and the boundaries we protect. When someone dates without understanding what they truly want, they end up walking through a maze blindfolded, bumping into people, getting hurt, and wasting precious emotional energy. Dating is not just a casual exchange of dinners and text messages. It's the gradual exchange of emotional presence, vulnerability, and time, which are some of the most valuable currencies we have. When you're unclear about your intentions, you invite confusion, not only into your own heart, but into someone else's too. And nothing is more painful than realizing you were serious about someone who was only curious about you. Clarity gives direction. Without it, we tend to attract people who are also unsure of what they want. That's why so many people find themselves in situationships, these confusing, undefined, emotionally draining connections where no one knows where things are going. The reason it hurts so much is because one person is usually hoping for more while pretending to be okay with less. Clarity of intentions puts an end to that pretending. It allows you to stand in your truth and say, this is what I'm looking for, and I'm not afraid to walk away from what doesn't align with that. This is not about being demanding, it's about being honest. With yourself first, and then with others. When you're clear that you're dating to marry, you move differently. You're not easily impressed by surface level charm or temporary thrills. You're paying attention to how a person treats others, how they handle conflict, what their values are, and whether their lifestyle supports the kind of future you envision. You're not just asking, do they like me, but also, do they align with the life I want to build? That level of clarity filters out people who are just there for entertainment or temporary companionship. And more importantly, it protects your heart from being invested in someone who is never planning to stay. Clarity is also the cure to manipulation. When you're clear on your standards and what you're looking for, it's much harder for someone to breadcrumb you or string you along with vague promises. You're not afraid to walk away at the first sign of mixed signals because you're not dating out of desperation, you're dating with direction. And that makes you powerful, that makes you rare. Clarity is not rigidity. It's confidence. It's the ability to know what works for you and what doesn't, and to communicate that with love and strength. On the other side, people who date for fun without expressing that upfront create chaos. They leave trails of broken expectations and emotional debris. But the truth is, many people are not cruel, they're just unclear. They don't take the time to reflect on what they really want, and so they unknowingly become a source of confusion for others. That's why clarity is a gift you give not only to yourself, but also to the people you date. It saves time, it saves hearts, it creates alignment so no one is emotionally overdrafting in a connection that was never meant to grow. Dating isn't always about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone aligned. And that alignment only happens when both people show up with intention. You don't need to know exactly who you're going to marry, but you do need to know whether that's your goal. Because clarity gives you the courage to walk away from someone who checks all the boxes on paper, but lacks the commitment you need for the future you desire. When you know what you're dating for, you stop entertaining what doesn't lead you there. And that kind of clarity doesn't limit love. It invites the kind of love that lasts. Dating for marriage is not just a preference. It's a mindset, a level of emotional maturity that shifts the entire way you experience relationships. It means you're not dating to fill a void, impress others, or simply avoid loneliness. You're dating with a long-term vision, with the purpose of building something real and lasting. Emotional maturity is the bridge between a temporary spark and a lifelong flame. It allows you to see beyond the honeymoon phase, beyond chemistry, and into character. You're no longer just asking if someone makes you laugh or gives you butterflies. You're asking if they can weather storms with you, support your growth, and be present in the moments that don't look like fairy tales. When you date with a long-term mindset, your focus moves from instant gratification to sustainable connection. You begin to measure someone not just by how they treat you when everything is easy, but by how they show up when life gets messy. You notice how they handle frustration, how they manage their emotions, how they speak when they're hurt, and whether they take responsibility for their actions. Dating for marriage means you are not just auditioning for someone's love. You're evaluating their ability to contribute to a healthy partnership. And you're constantly asking yourself the same. You want someone who is not only emotionally available, but also emotionally dependable. Someone who is not afraid to commit to the process of growth, healing, and compromise that every strong relationship requires. The truth is, not everyone is ready to date for marriage because not everyone is ready to face themselves. That's what marriage-level dating demands. It demands honesty, both with yourself and with your partner. You must be willing to confront your own patterns, your wounds, your communication habits, and your emotional triggers. You must be willing to evolve, not just expect someone else to change for you. And when two people approach dating with that level of emotional maturity, they create a foundation that can carry the weight of a lifetime. Long-term vision also changes how you handle disappointment. If someone shows you they are not compatible, you don't take it as a personal failure. You take it as useful information. You understand that not every connection is meant to last, and letting go of the wrong one is what creates space for the right one. Emotional maturity teaches you to differentiate between someone being exciting and someone being right for you. The people who are thrilling in the short term may not be steady in the long term. And when you're dating with vision, you don't get caught up in the highs and lows of emotional roller coasters. You seek consistency, values, integrity, and depth. This kind of dating is not for the faint of heart. It's for the brave, for those who are not afraid of being alone if it means avoiding being with the wrong person, for those who would rather wait for something meaningful than chase something convenient, for those who don't just want a relationship, they want a partner, a teammate, a best friend, someone who will walk beside them through the seasons of life with loyalty, love, and respect. Dating for marriage does not mean rushing the process or pressuring someone into commitment. It means being intentional, clear, and self-aware. It means choosing someone not only because they feel good, but because they align with your future. It means building something brick by brick with mutual effort and honesty. And it starts with having the emotional maturity to know who you are, what you need, and what kind of love you're ready to give and receive. Dating for fun can absolutely be a valid choice, as long as it is approached with honesty and transparency from the very beginning. There's nothing wrong with wanting companionship, adventure, or even casual connection. What becomes problematic is when people fail to communicate their true intentions, leaving the other person to make assumptions. In today's dating world, where attention is short and options seem endless, many people enter relationships with unclear motives and blurred boundaries. This creates emotional messiness, where one person ends up falling deeper than the other, and hearts get tangled in confusion instead of clarity. The truth is, if you're dating just for fun, you owe it to the person you're dating to say that up front, because no one deserves to be misled. Honesty isn't just about telling someone the truth. It's about respecting their time, their emotions, and their future. When you're upfront about your intentions, you give the other person the power to choose. You give them the freedom to decide if they're aligned with that kind of dynamic, or if they're looking for something deeper. It becomes an act of kindness, not cruelty, when you tell someone exactly where you stand. The most painful relationships often aren't the ones that didn't work out, but the ones that felt like they were building into something real, only to find out one person was never planning to stay. That kind of confusion can be avoided with one simple act: speaking your truth. Some people date for fun because they've just come out of something serious and aren't ready to invest emotionally again. Others do it because they're still figuring themselves out, and that's okay too. There's no shame in being in a season where you want light-hearted connection, but with that freedom comes the responsibility to communicate. When both people agree to keep things casual, when there's alignment and mutual respect, dating for fun can actually be refreshing. It can teach you about yourself, help you practice emotional boundaries, and prepare you for deeper love down the line. But even fun has its limits, and even light-hearted dating can cause deep hurt when the line between clarity and comfort is crossed. The problem arises when someone presents themselves as emotionally available, speaks about the future, and engages in serious behaviors while internally knowing they're not ready or willing to commit. That's not dating for fun. That's emotional manipulation. You can't build trust on mixed signals. You can't give someone your time, your intimacy, and your affection while withholding your true intentions. That's not fun. That's playing games with someone's heart, and it's the kind of behavior that leaves scars and creates fear in future relationships. Respect in dating isn't just about how you treat someone on the surface. It's about how truthful you are about your own emotional capacity. If you can't offer consistency, say so. If you're not ready for commitment, admit it. Don't let someone else carry the weight of expectations you never planned to meet. Transparency makes dating better for everyone because it eliminates second guessing, minimizes heartbreak, and builds trust. Even if the relationship does. Dating for fun should still come with kindness, with intention, and with emotional responsibility. It's not about using people or collecting experiences. It's about connecting with others without pretending to be something you're not. When you know who you are and communicate what you want, you attract people who are in the same place. You avoid the pain of false hope and give yourself and others the dignity of truth. Because at the end of the day, the most attractive thing in dating, whether casual or serious, is clarity wrapped in compassion. Conflicting intentions in dating are one of the most overlooked causes of emotional pain. When two people step into a connection but aren't aligned in what they're looking for, the relationship becomes a ticking time bomb. One person begins to dream of a future, imagining stability, love, and growth, while the other is simply enjoying the present moment with no plans beyond it. This imbalance creates silent expectations, unspoken pressure, and constant uncertainty. It's not always because someone lied outright. It's often because neither person asked the right questions or dared to speak their truth early on. But silence, especially when filled with hope, can become a powerful illusion, and illusions break hearts. When someone is dating to marry, they approach every interaction with deeper intentionality. They're not just wondering if there's chemistry, they're wondering if there's compatibility. They look at patterns, values, emotional stability, and long-term lifestyle alignment. They want to invest, nurture, and grow. But if the person they're dating is simply in it for company, fun, or a distraction from loneliness, the imbalance will eventually show itself. First, it may look like inconsistency. One day they're warm and invested, the next they're distant or vague. It might show up in avoidance, changing the subject when the future is brought up, or never introducing you to the people who matter in their life. These aren't just personality quirks, they're red flags of misalignment. The pain doesn't come from someone not choosing you, it comes from someone pretending they might. It's in the mixed signals, the prolonged hope, and the subtle breadcrumbs of affection that keep you emotionally tied to something that was never real. When intentions clash, one person often ends up overinvesting emotionally while the other stays emotionally protected. And what makes it worse is that people in the emotionally lighter role don't always realize the damage they're doing. They enjoy the comfort, the validation, the presence of someone who loves deeply without carrying the weight of that depth themselves. This is why clarity in the early stages of dating is so vital. It's not about interrogating someone or demanding answers on the first date. It's about gently and honestly sharing what you're looking for. It's about creating space for the other person to share their perspective without fear of judgment. When both people are honest, there's less room for confusion and more room for respect. even if it means parting ways early. It's far better to walk away from a misaligned connection than to stay and slowly lose your sense of self trying to convince someone to want what you want. The emotional toll of staying in a relationship with conflicting intentions is heavy. It creates anxiety, insecurity, and self-doubt. You begin to question your worth, thinking that maybe if you were more patient, more attractive, more lovable, they would finally commit. But the truth is, the problem was never you. It was the gap between what you needed and what they were willing to give. No amount of love can fill that gap when someone is not on the same page emotionally or mentally. You cannot force alignment. It has to be mutual or it's not real. Dating with intentionality is an act of self-love. It requires courage to walk away from someone who feels good in the moment but doesn't see a future with you. It requires trust in your own value, knowing that you don't have to shrink your desires or delay your dreams just to keep someone close. The right connection will meet you where you are, not leave you waiting for something that never arrives. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in dating is protect your peace by only engaging with those who are truly ready to match your heart's intentions. Your approach to dating is a mirror that reflects how you see yourself, what you believe you deserve, and how much you value your time and emotions. Many people focus so much on impressing others or being chosen that they forget the real question. Are you choosing from a place of worth or from a place of fear? When you date with low standards, when you accept inconsistent effort, half-hearted affection, or unclear intentions, you're not just tolerating poor treatment, you're silently telling yourself this is the best you can get. That internal belief shapes the kind of relationships you attract and stay in. But when you carry yourself with confidence, emotional awareness, and clarity, you naturally begin to set boundaries that filter out anyone who cannot meet you at your level. The way you let someone treat you in the early stages of dating speaks volumes about how you've been treating yourself when no one's looking. If you let yourself be a second option, a backup plan, or someone's temporary distraction, you're not just being generous or understanding, you're settling. And settling is the enemy of growth. The way you date is not just about finding love, it's about how deeply you honor your own needs and dreams. When you value yourself, you don't waste time trying to decode mixed signals or chasing people who are emotionally unavailable. You create space for someone who sees your worth without needing to be convinced. Dating intentionally isn't about being cold, guarded, or closed off. It's about being selective in a world that wants you to be desperate. It's about knowing that attention isn't the same as commitment, and chemistry isn't the same as character. Anyone can give you butterflies, but not everyone can build with you. Not everyone can hold space for your vulnerability, respect your boundaries, or show up when it's not convenient. When you know your worth, you stop negotiating your standards for temporary connection. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's version of love. You realize that peace, clarity, and mutual respect are far more romantic than emotional chaos. Too often, people approach dating with the mindset of, I hope they like me, when the real power lies in asking, do they align with what I truly want? That shift in perspective changes everything. It allows you to view red flags not as challenges to overcome, but as signs to honor. It helps you walk away with dignity instead of waiting to be chosen. The person who values themselves doesn't chase. They attract. They attract partners who are emotionally ready, who are willing to grow, who are intentional with their words and consistent with their actions, because people who know their worth make it easy for the right kind of love to find them. The most powerful thing you can bring into dating is not your looks, your charm, or your success. It's your standards. It's your willingness to say no to what doesn't serve you. It's your courage to be alone rather than stay in something that drains your spirit. That strength doesn't repel love. It attracts a deeper, more respectful form of it. When you approach dating from a place of self-worth, you no longer need validation from every person you meet. You become magnetic to the kind of person who doesn't play games. Because they sense that you're not playing either. You're real, you're grounded, and you're ready. And that energy shifts everything. You no longer wait to be seen. You walk in already knowing who you are and what you deserve. And that kind of certainty becomes your greatest form of protection and your greatest source of power. In the end, dating is not just about finding someone. It's about finding alignment, clarity, and truth. Whether you're dating to marry or dating for fun, the foundation must always be self-awareness and honesty. When you know what you want, you protect your peace. When you communicate that truth, you protect others' hearts. And when you date from a place of intention and self-worth, you don't just attract love, you attract respect, consistency, and a deeper emotional connection. Love is not a game of chance. It's a reflection of the standards you set and the energy you bring. The right person doesn't confuse you, they bring clarity. The right relationship doesn't leave you guessing, it offers you peace. Choose intentionally, love deeply, and never settle for less than what speaks to your soul. Thank you for watching this message and giving your heart the space it deserves. If this spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more empowering content. You are worthy of a love that feels like home. Stay strong, stay clear, and stay true to you.